Homo Patiens, Man the Footballer, is the latest addition to our online bookshop. Homo Patiens provides a radical and entertaining hypothesis, grounded by principles drawn from the evolutionary and cultural history of mankind, that humans evolved bipedalism, that's walking in two legs, for the purpose of playing football. It makes sense, doesn't it? Preview the first 4 sections and order your copy of Homo Patiens, Man the Footballer today. Just find the relevant link in the podcast description. From the pages of the Blizzard the Football Quarterly, a look through the archives where we bring you some of our favourite articles that have appeared in the magazine since we first began in 2011. In episode 134, we feature The Throwback by Maciej Iwanski, first published in issue 19 of December 2015. The winter is severe in Warsaw. It is 14th of January 2006. Robert Lewandowski is 17 with a head full of dreams of becoming the next star of Legia Warsaw's attack. He is tall and slim and arrived just a few months ago from Legia's small satellite club in the 4th Division, Delta. After signing a 1-year deal with Legia, he was immediately sent to play for the reserves in the 3rd Division. On this particular day, it's 5 degrees below zero and the snow is piled around the artificial grass pitch where Legia reserves play in the Syrenka Cup, a friendly tournament against other local teams from lower divisions. In the final, Legia face their local rivals Polonia. Lewandowski scores 5. "I don't really remember that match," Lewandowski said 9 years later, shortly after captaining Poland to a place at Euro 2016 and finishing the qualifiers as top scorer. Poland secured qualification for France at the supermodern Stadion Narodowy, 8 kilometres away from Legia's old ground. "Well, I do remember the pitch we played at and that it took quite a while to adapt to the conditions," he recalls. "I can't believe what happened." He scored his first goal in the 2nd minute, with the others coming in the 5th, 9th, 12th and 34th. Legia's reserves won the Syrenka Cup, but it was the only silverware they lifted with Lewandowski in the team. A few weeks later he was injured, the only serious injury he has ever had, and after treatment he was sold for £1,000 to another 3rd Division team, Zdenich Prushko. It's a mistake Legia fans regret to the day. To be fair, the club, though even Lewandowski's most devout fan, couldn't have predicted what a player he would become. "I'll never agree with those who claim my son was meant for football," Lewandowski's mother Iwona said. She saved his career. "I remember that day as if it happened yesterday. He was at the end of his break, ready to come back and fight for his chance at the best club in our region. I was waiting in the car, and I immediately saw something was wrong. He was devastated. 'Mama, they erased me from their plans. It's over.' I simply couldn't believe it." Even all these years later, she is clearly moved by the memory. "We came back home. I made the dinner. He refused to eat. I didn't know what to do, and suddenly I decided to call one of his previous coaches and ordered Robert to get his boots. We drove to meet him, and he immediately called Zdenich. Within 40 minutes we were there. Their team was getting ready for training. The coach came in and saw Robert. He knew him from Legia. 'What the hell?' he shouted. 'Get yourself ready for training now.' Robert was so happy when he heard this. It was the beginning of a new era." Iwona Lewandowski smiled and stopped for a little while. "We met in a brand new sushi restaurant in central Warsaw and talked for more than 2 hours. She came with her other child, Robert's sister, Milena, who is 3 years his elder. At that moment, Milena and I looked at Iwona as her strong, joyful voice started to waver. I noticed that her brown eyes were in tears. 'I've no idea why I'm acting like this,' she said. 'This was never me. I did it all the way my husband would have done it. I believe he pushed me from heaven to help our only son.' Krish passed away in March 2005. I never realised before, but yes, he never saw Robert playing professional football even once. But it was he who shaped the man Robert is now." Lewandowski was raised in a family in which sports was as natural as breathing. Iwanski represented Poland at volleyball. Krzysztof was a European junior champion in judo. He was the one who decided their son's name. He knew that we were going to raise a footballer. That's why he is Robert. Travelling through Europe, Krzysztof witnessed how important it would be to have an internationally recognisable name. When Robert was 8, he lived in Leszno, 30 kilometres and 40 minutes, by bus from Warsaw. His father taught him judo, but decided his body was much more suited for football. But the basics of martial arts would be very useful years later, when Robert fights with defenders. The local club Partizan had no junior teams, so Robert needed to go to Varsovia, where he trained and played with boys 2 years older. He was small and very slim, but he knew what to do, his sister says. Sport was everything to us. I trained to play volleyball, so our parents were a little bit stretched. It was normal that I had to wait for 2 or 3 hours until Robert was finished, or the opposite. And of course, we played matches and weekdays. Milena is the charming and beautiful mother of Leon, a 6-month-old boy sleeping in the stroller next to our table. With her husband Radek, she runs a bespoke tailor shop called Signa Leone. Robert, who refuses to confirm he has invested his money into the family business, wears their suits. Yeah, it's really quality stuff, Robert says. And Radek is very professional. He needed only 2 hours to work on me. He never asked me back again like others did. Officially, Robert's first club was Varsovia. Although he started playing football when he was 6 at Partizan Leszno, they never registered him. They regret this now, as UEFA transfer rules would have earned them enough money to survive for years after his moves to Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich. But it's not that Lewandowski never played for Partizan. Despite playing basketball, volleyball, handball, always in the school's first team, and running, he operated under a false name. In one of the matches he scored a few goals, and at half-time his father and coach decided to substitute him so that their opponents would not start checking the documents. Milena treats this as a joke. I think this is the most crazy thing my little brother did in all his life, she laughs. But that's not true. Robert told me that when he was a teenager he took his parents' car once and went away somewhere. Wojciech Zawiola, a journalist for Polish broadcaster NC Plus, claims. But Lewandowski is not the kind of man who would seek trouble. We had warm, loving home, Iwana says. We gave him confidence, protected his education, and tried to help him develop as a footballer. It was his dream from the very first moment of his life, and also his father's dream, especially Legia. Krzysztof was a huge fan of the club. Lewandowski was 16 when his parents decided it was time for the kids to move to Warsaw. So Robert had only one bus instead of 2 hours driving for every training session and every match at Varsovia. He lived with his sister in a small apartment owned by the family. The parents came as often as they could. Robert asked his father to video training and matches so they could watch them and correct any mistakes. He also competed against his dog. He came home angry once, Iwana remembers, because his dog was quicker than him. He tried to be faster until he succeeded. I laughed, but now I see it wasn't that easy and he focused on winning, always and everywhere. It wasn't easy, and he was much smaller than the other kids. We had to work a lot on him, but he was a pure talent. Krzysztof Sikorski, Lewandowski's first coach at Varsovia, told the TVP cameras after his protege had hit 5 in 9 minutes after coming off the bench at half-time against Wolfsburg in the Bundesliga in September 2015. He loved football, and the ball loved him. He likes to tell the story at the end of the 1999 season, when Lewandowski wasted 6 one-on-one chances in the game, and the team lost 1-0. The other boys were so used to Robert scoring that nobody ran forward to help him, Iwana remembers. He was devastated until the next match, when he scored again. And Varsovia were very poor. They couldn't afford respectable facilities. He changed in the back seat of our car, and I always came with sausage and bread after the match, but when he scored he could eat his beloved muffins. Something his wife would now kill him for. All 3 of us laugh. Robert was 16 when his father died. Robert didn't really have time to see this, said Milena. I was older, and we decided with Mama that I would be the one knowing what was going on. He passed away very rapidly. Robert was obviously very moved by this. He never talked with Tata about his disease, but he felt the shadow that was coming. Then it was time to sort out Robert's next move. He and his family chose Delta, Legia's satellite club. On 30th of April 2005, in front of 200 spectators, Robert scored his first senior goal against KS Lewandowski in the 4th Division, on a small pitch with no seats and no stands. After 9 months, he decided it was time to move to Legia, as the financially troubled Delta senior team were liquidated. During the next year, he never received any real chance at Legia, Iwana remembers. I remember watching the reserves team matches, and many people ask why Robert never got a chance. Legia seemed to prefer a forward called David Janček. The knee injury ended his hopes at Legia. Robert was so energetic that I couldn't stand him when he was injured, Milena said, shaking her head. I was happier than my brother when he could get back to playing, but not for Legia. Janček signed for Legia in 2005, and 2 years later was sold to CSKA Moscow for more than €4 million. After scoring only twice and being loaned to 4 clubs, he was sold to Piast Gliwice in 2014. After a year there, he is without a club and almost out of football, admitting he has disciplinary problems. Robert shows no sign of bitterness about what happened at Legia. He's very different from the shy boy I met in 2007 when he was at Zednic, and I was working as a commentator for TVP, covering 2nd Division games. Lewandowski was the lethal weapon of the youngest team, the newcomers who nearly made it into the top flight. 8 years on, he's a gladiator, a European star and the captain of the national team. But I still get the impression every time we talk that he's pretty much the same boy, focused on team winning. The injury I had during the year I was there was the reason Legia did not believe in my future, Lewandowski said. I was only a reserve team prospect then, but that was not the future written for me. It was a painful experience, but only for a moment. Lewandowski graduated from high school and enrolled as a student at Warsaw's Academy of Physical Education, where his parents met more than 2 decades ago. It's there that he met Anna, a karate champion and future world champion with the Poland national team. He would introduce himself as Andrea. He was in a group, sure she would not be able to remember his name, so he didn't care. The next time they met, she called him by his false name. Surprised she knew it, Robert started talking to her. At that time in the 3rd Division, he earned £230 a month. I remember that he was driving a blue Fiat Bravo, and he always came to the club with 2 or 3 other players, so they would share petrol costs, said Leszek Ojinski, then the coach of Zednic. Lewandowski remembers faithful to Italian cars, driving a red Ferrari, bought after signing his contract with Bayern. When a friend asked me to set up the meeting with Lewandowski to show him his KTM Expo, I texted him, "Want to ride KTM? 240 horsepower, 800 kilos, no roof." "Sure. Let's meet before the national team match," he replied. We came on the Tuesday, as I knew Robert wanted to stop his activities. Interviews, commercial appearances, 3 days before the game. Did he enjoy the ride? Nice. Fast. But I already have a car, he replied. Typical Lewandowski. It's not the money, he earns €100,000 in 3 days, but he doesn't like to spend when it's not necessary, even though cars are his true passion. 7 years ago, he couldn't even dream about this sort of money. Robert came to us in the autumn, said Ojinski. He was physically weak, scored 3 times. After 11 weeks of the winter break, when we could prepare him, he scored 12 goals and we got promoted. In the 1st Division, he started scoring and assisting from the very first moment. When I moved to Wisła Płock, I wanted to sign him, but he was already priced at £200,000. We couldn't afford him. Maybe it was good, because at Płock, he would never have developed as he did at Lech Poznan. It was at Zednic that Lewandowski started to become recognisable beyond the Warsaw football environment. As he was failing to make it at Legia, the forward Cezary Kaczowski was finishing his playing career at the club. I didn't know him at the time, he said. The first time I saw him was training at Zedenich, where I'd gone to help another player. But when I saw Robert's movement and the touch, I immediately decided to contact him. We met in Warsaw, in the prestigious modern apartment that serves as CK Sport Management's headquarters. The inside is luxurious and stylish. Kachowski's office has a big brown leather chair and wooden furniture, full of his career football shirts and honours. In 2006, Kachowski recalls, I said in an interview that I would stay in football as a player's agent, that I wanted to raise another David Beckham. I was sure that we had that kind of player in Poland. It's just that nobody takes the right care of them. And I knew I wanted to build a big international career when I found a suitable player. I was lucky to find him right after. Kachowski, who invested the money he made in football into 27 apartments in Warsaw and was elected to the Polish parliament, pours a cup of black tea. He was the first agent to talk to Lewandowski. Cesare called Roberts, and when we first met him I was charmed, said Iwona. He seemed trustworthy, saying he thought that my son was a future star and had the potential to make a good career abroad. I was touched with the way he talked, promising to help Roberts, not just earn from him. Lewandowski, whose role model was Thierry Henry, liked the prospect of major football abroad. His first question was, what and how should I improve, remembers Kachowski. Well, at that time, despite his huge talent, it was pretty much everything. By then, Lewandowski could have already been a player at IL Hod, but the club promoted to Norway's top flight never sent an official transfer request. They decided that a player from the Polish third division was too much risk. When Kachowski came onto the scene, Lewandowski was on his way to becoming the second division's top scorer, as he had been the previous season in the third. The offers started to come. Half of the extra-class teams wanted Roberts, Kachowski said. The choice seemed obvious. Legia. At that time, Legia were a superpower waiting to be born. With a new rich owner, the future seemed bright. Miroslav Trejčak, their sports director and a former national team forward, had been searching for a new striker. As the man who scored the winning goal in Osasuna's crucial match while battling for promotion to La Liga, Trejčak was taken by the idea of signing a player from Spain rather than giving a chance to a promising Pole. One day the mobile phone of Zdeněk Priško's president rang. Trejčak here. You can sell Lewandowski. We just signed Mikel Arruabarrena. In this situation your boy would be fifth in line to play at Legia. Arruabarrena failed in Poland, and Lewandowski signed for Legia's biggest rivals, Lech Poznan. Robert was not to fulfil his father's dream of being a star in the city of his birth. 7 years later, Kachowski claims Legia had no choice. I was the one who told Roberts, you should not go to Legia. Why? Because I was captain at that club, and I knew that they were not going in the right direction at the time. Lej gave us the chance of moving forward, up to the title. The coach, Franciszek Smuda, wanted my player, and from the very first moment we all felt that this was the right thing to do. What Kachowski does not say is that Lej's offer was not the best one. But Zdeněk's president, grateful for what Lewandowski had achieved, told the player he would agree to any transfer suitable for Robert, as he signed him for almost nothing. Lej paid £200,000 plus bonuses. In other words, Lewy was worth £1 million zloty, and he signed the first deal that made him a rich man. His basic salary was £8,000 a month. One of his first decisions was helping his mother buy a new car, which for Roberts has become a relative common expenditure. In Poznan, one of Poland's biggest cities, only a 90-minute drive to Berlin thanks to the new A2 motorway, Lej means everything. The city breathes the club. Fans were delighted with the signing of Lewandowski. It was extremely important to us, Kachowski said. Every coach offered a place in the first team from the start, but Lej Stadium, under construction from Euro 2012, with passionate fans, helped us prepare for the next move. When we were negotiating terms, I already told Lej's owner that we were going there to win something and take another step. We decided to sign Robert Lewandowski after deep research made by a scouting department, explained Piotr Ratowski, vice president and son of the owner Germany-based businessman Jacek Ratowski. We observed him many times and wanted to know everything about him. He was getting better and better every day, and very soon foreign clubs started talking about him. If their research was so good though, why didn't Smuda know anything about Robert's personal life? Cesare asked me once to drive with him to Bialystok, where Ley were playing Jaglonia, in a league match the next day, said Iwona. We met the coach in the hotel lobby. He knew nothing about Robert's father and all that story. Maybe he didn't care. But after that, he said in an interview that he knew Robert would never cause any trouble and would keep his feet on the ground. Yeah, that was fun, said Kaczowski as he poured another cup of tea. It was all a set-up. Smuda went crazy about Lewandowski, but he knew other coaches might do the same. So he asked me if he could leave early and shout at me. I was surprised at that moment, but he played my role, and a few minutes later, he assured me that this is only an act for other clubs' representatives watching Robert. The story is good, but local journalists claim Smuda would have preferred the experienced Thomas Frankowski over Lewandowski, calling him that boy from Zednich. But Lewandowski shone from the very first moment at the club. The new forward scored a beautiful backheel goal in his league debut, a 3-2 defeat, only 4 minutes after coming on as a substitute. With expectations raised, the press wanted the national team coach to give the Wonder Kid his chance. Is he a player who can fight with strong Czech Republic defenders who want to kill him in every second of the match, the Dutchman replied. He decided it was too early to call up the lay player for Euro 2008. But a few weeks after the tournament it was time. After a draw at home to Slovenia, he picked Lewandowski for the next match, away at San Marino. It was there in the small Stadio Olimpico that Lewandowski scored his first national team goal. He doesn't remember that either. Well, in all honesty, neither does Poland, as the nation was stunned in the opening few minutes when San Marino were ordered a penalty, only for Lukas Fabianski to save from Andy Silva. Lewandowski came on in the second half and scored in the 68th minute, knocking in the rebound after an Ibai Smolarek shot to make it 2-0. The national team coach Bean Hacker used Lewandowski 4 times during qualification for the 2010 World Cup, and he scored more than once in Kielce, when Poland demolished San Marino 10-0. The team fell badly, finishing second bottom in the 6-team group ahead of only San Marino. Bean Hacker said that this year how impressed he was with Lewandowski from the start, but there was no chance to use him the way he was being used by the current coach, Adam Nawalka. He was simply not the same player. In fact, Lewandowski's record for the national team before the Euro 2016 qualifiers was far more impressive. Yes, he scored, but not against the biggest teams. He was often isolated because the 4-5-1 formation left him without any support. Lewandowski's time at Ley was almost perfect. They did well in Europe for a Polish team and won the Polish Cup in 2009. Lewandowski played a major role. Sharks started to swim around the Miejski Stadium in Poznan. Borussia Dortmund made their move. They contacted me with an offer of around €2.5 million, Kaczowski said. By that time, he had created a company helping players to develop, as he describes it, with the German co-owner, Maciej Bartel. His contacts in the German market were invaluable. The 21-year-old Lewandowski thought that this could be his moment, but the club refused to let him go. The forward was devastated, although now he denies it. I knew the next offer would come only if I played well enough, he said. The facts are different. At the start of the season, Robert had problems on the pitch. Some journalists began to suggest he was not focused enough. It was only a moment. Few days. I'd be unhappy in his place, Kaczowski said. I feel the same if my transfer to Sporting Gijón in 1997 had been stopped by the club. The agent started to convince the young forward that it was only a matter of time. It worked. 10 months later, Lewandowski, as Polish champion Ekstraklasa top goal scorer, signed a deal with Dortmund worth €4.5 million with an annual wage of €1 million plus bonuses. I remember he was so happy, but he knew from that moment, for him, it was like starting over, said Iwona. This was the chance his father wanted for him. There were many offers, including one from Blackburn Rovers which was very attractive for Lewandowski, but he never had the chance to accept the invitation to fly there because of the Icelandic ash cloud. Dortmund were determined to sign me. I liked the club, the team and the coach seemed very interested, so everything looked optimistic, Lewandowski recalls. He started to learn German. It takes 6 months for him to speak fluently, so if we make another move to another country, he will be ready very soon, Kaczowski said with a big smile. But Lewandowski had his problems. Jurgen Klopp, the then Dortmund coach, tried him as a number 10, with Lucas Barrios up front. Many experts in Poland thought that was the limit for Lewandowski. Barrios, remember what I told you? Kaczowski laughs exactly the same way he did 5 years ago when I asked him about the Paraguay international. Good, but not at Robert's level. It's important to have such confidence from your agent. Lewandowski needed a year to be played as a number 9, but once Barrios had left, the Polish forward started to be the match winner. Dortmund impressed with the way they could transform themselves and started to counter and re-counter-attack. Soon the theories about their success began. Why? How? There were many details, Lewandowski explained. For example, my wife, who is crazy about healthy food, helped me prepare for my challenges. I told the guys one day why I liked to do different things to what everybody else was eating, so their wives started to call Ania. It's just one of hundreds of details. We changed our diets. Of course, we worked very hard with the coach in every aspect of the game. Jurgen Klopp made me the footballer I am. I haven't changed anything at Bayern. I'm just using different weapons in my artillery, but I shaped my career in Dortmund. Perhaps his mind was shaped even earlier, but his body was shaped at Dortmund, and the atmosphere was fantastic. I saw it myself while speaking to Klopp in Marseille after the final Champions League group game in December 2013. Lewandowski scored, and his compatriots Jakub Lewandowski and Lukas Piszczek both played as well. Klopp entered the area for TV rights holders, smiling as usual, and seeing me talking to Lewandowski, started to swear in Polish. Lewandowski laughed. They high-fived and I could start my interview with the coach. We've created a beast. You saw the beast. I did. It has your Polish name. Lewandowski. But tell the fans we are proud of everybody from your country. Klopp started to flow immediately. It was Lewandowski's final season at Dortmund. 2 weeks later he was confirmed to be moving to Bayern. It was a logical move, not changing country, language, the style of the opponent. When I heard about it, I simply couldn't believe it. Too good to be true. Nope. I remember it like it was yesterday, the 25th of April 2010. Ley, fighting for the title, shared the points with their biggest rivals, Wisla in Krakow. After the TV transmission, I started my journey back to Warsaw. Not by train as I came, but by a brand new Audi Q7, driven by Kaczowski, whom I had known for years. Lewandowski's mother and sister were in the back seat, the first time I could witness the positive atmosphere in the family of Polish football's biggest star. We stopped at a small petrol station, about an hour outside Warsaw. Tell me, what do you think about Robert's future will be? Honestly, I asked Cesare. Bayern. After we finish the contract in Dortmund, we must prepare for the big jump. Kaczowski replied. Iwana and Milena smiled. I thought Kaczowski was just being nice to them. When I talk to Kaczowski now, he has the same confidence. I wasn't lying that day, he said. I really believed in Robert. I didn't know it would be Bayern, but for me they are among the top 10 clubs in the world, so moving to Munich was natural. And Robert knew he wasn't going to wear the yellow shirt for a lifetime. He never said anything like that, but we were honest with everybody out there. Is there a place for sincerity in football? Maybe the powers to be at Dortmund authority should rethink this issue. 1 year before Lewandowski's contract expires, Kaczowski drove his next Audi Q7, black this time, towards Dortmund. His player scoring 4 goals against Real Madrid on their way to the Champions League final at Wembley, 3 years less a day after our conversation about Bayern, proved himself again. With bonuses, Robert earned €1.5 million, Kaczowski explained. I wanted him to get €5 million like Mario Götze did, but I heard that the maximum offer would be €3 million. Why? You're not going to believe this. Come on, this is a lot of money in Poland. I left. Kaczowski started his private conflicts with the Dortmund authorities, but denied it lasted longer than Lewandowski's last day at the club. But it was certain his next move would be made within a few months. I never thought about it, Lewandowski said. This mess around me never gave me any extra pressure. I just did what I did. He raised his arms for a second. What could I do? Nothing. My job was on the pitch until the very last day I did my best for the team, the fans. We were lucky in Dortmund. I was one of the 3 best players there. We worked very hard and sometimes we were just lucky. That's it. Details. Signing for Bayern made Lewandowski a very rich man. In 2013, Bayern offered around €25 million and were about to sign an €8 million per year wage deal. But after selling Götze to Bayern, Dortmund made Lewandowski wait again. He signed the following summer for free. He earned €11 million a year with a big bonus at the start. His agent refuses to confirm it, but while talking to a Polish playboy, he admitted to having earned €25 million during a supper, which is presumably the bonus for contract signing. By then, Jupp Heynckes, who had wanted Lewandowski, had been replaced by Pep Guardiola. The Catalan coach confirmed the transfer. Did Lewandowski hesitate? Not for a second. I know Pep had disliked some classical forwards in the past, but it didn't concern me. I wasn't there. I don't know much about these players. I know my quality. I knew I was ready and good enough. You know what the most interesting thing is about Pep? He likes to tell us, forward players, how much he trusts our instinct. People think sometimes that everything is programmed, but it's not. In the defensive phase, Pep demands certain behaviour. But he tells us, hey, I didn't play as a forward, so you tell me now what you think it is, and let's work on everything we need to do. I do what I feel is good for the team. Asked about the main differences between Klopp and Guardiola, he is silent for a moment. Hard to say. Maybe the warm-up? For Pep, it's part of the game. He wants us to fight as hard as during the match. There aren't many differences I can speak about in public. Both are top class with great contact with the players. How then was Lewandowski the number 9 who survived under the higher priest of tiki-taka? I can speak only for myself. I'm versatile. I improve and feel I'm better with every month. But I'm not a classical centre forward. I'm good at attacking from the side, for example. He's not moved by statistics showing that his conversion rate is the best in Europe, far better than Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. They play in a different way. And besides, it doesn't matter how many times you take a shot. It only matters when you score. Lewandowski's 5 goals in 9 minutes against Wolfsburg, followed by some supreme performances for his country, have made him even more popular. He doesn't care. He tells me, Mama, stop reading about me. It's pointless, Iwona says. Fame, fortune, it's part of my job and I have to accept every positive and negative aspect of being a professional footballer, said Lewandowski. I wondered if he ever steps out of his role, watching his answers. He's not acting, says Milena. The problem with Robert is that you think you have to ask him exact questions or stop trying to know what he thinks. It's like he doesn't want to bother people with him. For me, everything in his life makes perfect sense. The path he's walking, the choices he's made. Anna is very similar to our mother. Very energetic, optimistic. I'm more like Dad, calm and quiet. He never wanted his wedding to be sensational. Of course he couldn't avoid paparazzi, but it was as quiet as possible. There is a lot of crossover between the role he has to play and the reality. He doesn't follow his special diet, for instance, only because he has to. I like it because it gives me the confidence that my body works in perfect condition, he explained when we met in Doha, Qatar, in January 2015. I'd gone for the Handball World Championship. Robert was training and playing friendlies with Bayern. We sat in the lobby of the 5-star Aspire Academy Hotel, where the World Cup 2022 hosts house and train talented youngsters. The facilities are extremely impressive. I want to know how to lose a few pounds by changing my diet. It's simple, there are rules, he said. You start with something sweet, then you add another, then another, in a certain order. He was at least engaged, as when speaking about football. Robert Lewandowski is a star. A predictable star, boring, some would say. But not for the sponsors. Gillette, Panasonic, Nike, T-Mobile, Coca-Cola, Huawei. All the brands wanted to sign contracts in the local market, but it seems only a matter of time before he becomes a role model on the world stage. I never had any problems with Robert, said Kachowski. He perfectly understands that no scandal is good for his career. Well, there were some situations we had to handle, as with every human being, but we worked so that nobody knew what we didn't want people to know. Observing Kachowski, I can't say whether he was joking or was serious. He surely means what he says. when he points out that Robert needs to become a marketing icon for a clothing company to be regarded as the world's best. Or one of the best. Messi and Ronaldo have both found themselves criticised in their home countries for an inability to bring success in a national shirt. Trophies at club level only heighten the expectation of the fans of the national team. With Smuda as the national team coach, Lewandowski desperately wanted to achieve something on home soil in Euro 2012. In the final minutes of the opening match against Greece at the Stadion Narodowy in Warsaw, he starred. He scored a header and the country exploded with joy. But it all went wrong. Greece levelled and it finished 1-1. After another draw against Russia, Poland lost to the Czech Republic in Rockstuff and finished bottom of the group. But the public didn't look for scapegoats. 100,000 people attended the Warsaw fan zone to thank the players for the efforts. Lewandowski, he wasn't the captain, grabbed the mic. "I can promise you we will qualify for the next World Cup." He made people scream the same way he did when he was scoring. But it never happened. Under the new coach Waldemar Fornalik, Poland played without sparkle and Lewandowski had problems. In a 4-3-2-1 formation, he had to fight against 2 or 3 opponents when receiving a pass. "I can run with the ball and I like running with the ball. But it's good to have many options to solve the situation," he said. The fans turned away and started to whistle their idol. The problem is that to qualify, Poland will always need a goal scorer. And despite his huge quality, Robert at the time was not the same player as he is now, explained Andrzej Dawidzic, one of the national team's assistant coaches. "With him playing the way that he plays now, we would definitely have gone to Brazil. Obviously, we would do other things differently as results say we made some mistakes. But it is true, he is still becoming better and better." Lewandowski became Poland's top goal scorer in Europe, surpassing Wojciech Szczepanski's 31 goals. Adam Nawalka, the former national team midfielder, was hired by the new Polish Federation chairman, the one-time Juventus and Roma star Zbigniew Baniak, and decided to give Lewandowski the support he needed. He gave him the armband and built the team around the Bayern forward. The effects were immediate. Lewandowski created the most effective partnership at the qualifiers with Ajax's young Arkadiusz Milik. After a tough 2-1 win over Ireland at home, Poland could celebrate and Lewandowski got the mic once again. "I believe in this team. I love these guys," he said. "But we know this is only a step. We haven't achieved anything yet. I can promise you we will be at our best in France." His 13 goals in qualifying, equaling David Healy's record, were not the only reason to cheer him. "I used to come here, where the Stadion Narodowy is. It's where my dream started," Lewandowski said, recalling communist Poland and the old stadium that stood in the same spot. Will Lewandowski be able to fulfill the dream this time? "I know him, and I know he will be prepared," said Iwana. "When I listened to him I closed my eyes, and I heard my husband. The same way of speaking, the same strong mentality. Words can't describe how proud she is." So what's the next move for the forward who now earns in 10 minutes the monthly wage he received 7 years ago at Zednich? The same wonder kid from nearby Warsaw, who thanks to football is now the co-owner of a successful venture capital fund. I can tell you one thing. Kaczowski decides to switch to mineral water. And it's the first time I will. If Robert signs for Real Madrid, I don't say he will. But if he would, give this team more than Cristiano is giving them now. Not from the start in his second season when he settles. But he would. He speaks slowly, collecting his words. Kaczowski still keeps the text messages from Jose Mourinho, offering Lewandowski a contract while he was at Dortmund. "We had a gentleman's agreement with Bayern. For me that meant more than the better money offered in Madrid, so I thanked them and finished negotiations in Bavaria." I tried to confirm this to Lewandowski. I called him late into the evening. "I like watch La Liga on TV," he said, "but I also like watching the Premier League." "Nothing to say. I enjoy my time at Bayern. You know how agents are," he laughs. "So, nothing to say?" Or maybe I just didn't ask the correct question. If you enjoyed this, then make sure you subscribe and give us a rating on your podcast platform of choice. Also follow us on Twitter at Blizzard. That's at BLZZRD. That's the best place to keep up to date with all things Blizzard between each issue. Thanks for listening, and farewell. Issue 4 of the Squall is available to read online now. Themed red, and still providing additional support to football's freelance community, this edition features an exclusive interview with Ruben de la Red, an analysis of Sergio Ramos and the artistry behind a red card, and the Premier League's history is traced by some of its most notorious moments. To read all of this and more for just a recommended £3, head to the relevant link in the podcast description.